This Tuesday is the confirmation hearing for Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. He was Fox TV host and was in the National Guard. But this guy is scary. So scary that Senator Warren, who'll be part of the Armed Services hearing, wrote a 33-page letter asking tons of questions about tons of issues. So let's take a look at some of them. There's the basic level of competence. He ran 2 small vets groups into the ground with financial mismanagement. So how is he qualified to run an almost $1 trillion organization that already can't pass an audit? And then there are multiple reports about his excessive drinking, including several times when he was so sloshed, his staff had to carry him out. And there's allegations of sexual assault. You might have heard about the case where he paid a settlement to a woman who accused him of assault. But like Trump, there are many allegations. He's also said that women in the military shouldn't be in combat, although he's since walked that back. And he says that any discussions about transgender issues in the military is trans lunacy. He hates DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. He says that the woke crowd in the military is so obsessed with affirmative action that they won't stop until trans, lesbian, black females run everything. That's why he says that any general involved in that woke crap should be fired. Something he would, of course, have the power to do. As someone being asked to run an agency that's supposed to be apolitical, he sure got it out for what he calls the left, which I think he means Democrats. He called the American left an existential threat to freedom and says that our fate relies on exorcising the leftist specter dominating education, religion, and culture. He thinks it's just fine to use the military to suppress protests here at home, but I think he was thinking about Black Lives Matter protests, because when it comes to the January 6th crowd, he says they were patriots who love our country. And then there's his support for war crimes and torture. He pushed Trump to pardon servicemen convicted of war crimes, and he praised waterboarding as an effective technique that Congress should never have banned. He says the U.S. should not have to follow international laws like the Geneva Conventions. America should fight by its own rules, he says, or lack of them. And what about those wild tattoos? Have you seen them? One is a cross with 4 smaller ones in the corners, and the other is on his bicep, and it has the words Deus Vult, which is Latin for God wills it. Both harken back to the Crusades. Deus Vult was the battle cry to take back the Holy Land and slaughter Muslims. They're symbols that are very popular with groups on the extreme right. Hegseth says criticism of his tattoos is anti-Christian bigotry. Well, the National Guard was so concerned about those tattoos that they excluded him from guarding Biden during Biden's inauguration. Hegseth is definitely a Christian nationalist and an Islamophobe. He wrote in his book Christian Crusade that Muslim immigrants threatened the traditional Christian fabric of the United States. He warned about the high Muslim birth rates in states like Michigan, New York, and Minnesota, and complained about the number of Muslim Americans elected to office in the United States. Oh, he also complained about the popularity of the name Mohammed. Thanks to what he calls the unholy alliance between Islamists and leftists, who he says naively believe that Islam is a religion of peace, Muslims are gaining a foothold in our country. Oh, and one more thing. He's also a Christian Zionist. On Israel, he says, open up your Bible. God granted Abraham this land thousands of years ago. But Arabs and Muslims have been trying to erase Jewish ties to Jerusalem and make it look like Jews were never there. And poor Israel has had to fight defensive war after defensive war just to exist. Really? I think it's the other way around, Pete. As he concludes in his book, Christian Crusade, our present moment is much like the 11th century. We don't want to fight, but like our fellow Christians 1,000 years ago, we must. Arm yourself, he says, metaphorically, intellectually, physically. Our fight is not with guns yet. Well, thank goodness he said our fight is not with guns yet. But don't be too relieved. Elsewhere, when talking about the left, He said that people have to get even more proactive against the left. If you don't own a gun, he said, buy one, train to use it, and then buy more. And if you're not in good physical condition, well, get off the couch and get into shape. We will not save America from our keyboards. We're going to have to get out, pound the pavement, and out-hustle the left. So it's Muslims and leftists he's after. He ends his American Crusade book by saying, "See you on the battlefield. Together, with God's help, we will save America. Deus Vult." Oh my. Let's hope that God wills him not to be confirmed as Secretary of Defense. This guy is really scary.